The story opens with a sweeping glance at the entire globe, then narrows down to America bathed in the light of dawn. As a new day unfolds, we meet an average American family. The father, a gentle and patient soul, contrasts with his wife Amanda, prone to anger, suspicion, and quick tempers. Both parents hold jobs, raising their 2 children. Their daughter, a sweet and innocent soul, finds joy in the changing seasons, while their son harbors a mischievous streak. Upon waking up, Amanda's husband found her in high spirits. She expressed her desire to go on vacation and revealed that she had booked a house on an island. Unable to refuse, her husband agreed, and soon they all prepared and set off for the island. They sat in the car, reveling in the moment, radiating happiness. After a few hours of travel, they arrived at the house Amanda had booked, a grand residence that pleased everyone. The children eagerly started bathing in the pool while her husband busied himself with the luggage. Amanda headed to the market to purchase food and drinks, her joy evident as she completed her shopping. While loading the car with groceries, she noticed another man doing the same, stocking up an abundance of provisions for his family. The sheer quantity made it seem like he was preparing for the end of the world, creating a surreal atmosphere. Amanda found the situation peculiar but chose not to confront the man, opting to leave quietly. Upon returning home, the family prepared and headed to the beach, relishing their time there. While seated, they noticed a large ship in the distant sea. Initially thinking it would change course, they observed for 2 hours, only to find the ship had moved but remained at a distance, now farther ahead. An uneasy feeling settled in as the ship gradually approached. Fearing something was amiss, Amanda's husband urgently instructed everyone to flee. Panic ensued as people scattered in all directions on the beach. The ship, relentless, emerged from the sea and eventually came to a halt on the shore, creating an eerie sense that no one was in control. The situation grew increasingly peculiar, leading to the swift evacuation of the entire beach. A guard explained that the issue stemmed from a systemic problem affecting not just their ship but numerous others as well. The family promptly returned home, discovering the absence of internet connectivity and the inability to access TV channels. Ordering food online also became an unattainable task for them. They made do with whatever food they had and settled in for the night. The children drifted off to sleep, while Amanda and her husband enjoyed a quiet moment downstairs. Suddenly, a knock on the door startled them. Wondering who it could be, they opened it to find a man named Scott and his daughter. Both husband and wife were taken aback, as it was highly unusual for strangers to visit their home. Scott informs Amanda, "Madam, this house is mine. We communicated only online," but Amanda harbored doubts as they never spoke on the phone. Scott requests, "Can we come inside?" Amanda's husband invites them in. Scott explains, "We live in the city, but a sudden power outage engulfed everything in darkness. I understand you came here for vacation." Scott assures, "You've provided us money, so we're not asking you to leave. We simply want to stay here without disturbing you. We'll sleep in the basement. I'll even return your $1,000. Amanda's husband, trusting them, agrees to let them stay. However, Amanda herself remains unconvinced and reluctant to consent. Amanda expresses to them, "I cannot permit you to stay here as it poses a problem for me to be with strangers." However, when the couple has a private conversation, Amanda confesses her suspicions, believing that Scott and his daughter may have ulterior motives. Despite her doubts, her husband emphasizes their apparent distress and suggests helping them, assuring that he doesn't think they intend harm. He proposes talking to them one last time to clarify the situation. They decide to engage with Scott and his daughter again, and Scott communicates amicably. He doesn't appear threatening, but a subtle sense of unease lingers. Once convinced, Amanda reluctantly agrees. Scott's daughter switches on the TV, revealing an emergency broadcast message everywhere. It becomes evident that Scott was truthful. There was a power outage, no internet, and no channels were functioning. Their suspicions grew as challenging circumstances unfolded. Scott, a government officer, displayed evident concern, reflecting the seriousness of the situation. The following morning, Amanda's daughter expressed her desire to watch the next episode, only to realize there was no internet. Alarmed, Amanda checked her phone. Upon receiving an emergency notification, Amanda hurriedly shared it with her husband, only to find it mysteriously vanish. Suspecting a system hack, her husband decided to leave, leaving Amanda concerned about 2 unfamiliar individuals in their house. As he departed, Scott and his daughter emerged, and Amanda informed them about the urgent message, leaving Scott visibly shocked. Concerned, Amanda inquires about the situation escalating. Scott reassures her with a smile, expressing optimism that things will resolve. Reflecting on a similar past incident caused by a virus created by 2 boys, Scott downplays the current issue, asserting that there must be a solution. It's evident that Scott aims to alleviate the family's worries, especially for the sake of his daughter. Observing the circumstances, it became evident that a significant issue existed. Scott's wife had plans to travel by plane, intensifying the concerns for Scott and his daughter due to the malfunctioning systems. Amidst the worry, Amanda's daughter found herself alone outside, encountering an unusual sight, a large gathering of hundreds of deer, a strange occurrence in the midst of the chaos. The unusual behavior of the animals heightened the tension, prompting Scott to seek assistance from a neighbor. However, upon reaching the neighbor's house, he found scattered luggage and an empty dwelling. Meanwhile, as Amanda's husband was en route, his GPS failed, causing him to forget the way. A distressed woman approached his car, tearfully explaining that she had been lost for 2 days and needed help to call someone. Despite her plea, her fear unsettled Amanda's husband, leading him to depart without offering assistance. Continuing his journey, Amanda's husband heard the sound of a plane. Glancing back, he noticed the aircraft releasing something red. Fearing the worst, he accelerated, only to realize that the red objects were paper sheets with Persian writing. Aware that his friend owned a satellite phone, Scott entered the house with the hope that it might still function in the midst of the unfolding events. Unaware of the unfolding events, Amanda's children ventured into the jungle and discovered an empty cabin. Amanda's daughter shared the strange encounter with the deer, but her brother dismissed it, opting instead to tell a spooky story to spook her. Eventually leaving the cabin, they returned to find Scott struggling to make the satellite phone operational, only to realize it wasn't functioning. A few days prior, a sky display revealed that the American satellite had altered its course, rendering Scott's satellite phone ineffective. Seeking alternative perspectives, he headed to a beach where a distressing sight awaited him. A plane lay in ruins, surrounded by lifeless bodies. The scene was chilling. No survivors were left, with everyone having succumbed to the tragedy. Spotting another plane approaching, Scott discerned its imminent destruction and hastily fled to preserve his life. The plane met its demise upon reaching the beach. Seeking refuge inside a house, Scott was not spared, as the crash caused a massive wave that drenched him, instilling fear as he realized the escalating chaos was beyond control. Choosing not to disclose the plane crash to his daughter, Scott instead claimed to have fallen into a pool, explaining his wet clothes. He dispatched his daughter to retrieve fresh attire. When confiding in Amanda about the situation, including the malfunctioning satellite phone, she found it hard to believe, as satellite phones typically remain functional even in shutdown scenarios. To convince her, he finally revealed witnessing a plane's destruction. Meanwhile, the children remained outside, unaware of the unfolding events. Suddenly, a loud and unusual sound pierced the air, prompting them to cover their ears. Amanda, concerned for the children, ventured into the jungle in search of them. Upon finding the children, she brought them back home safely. Everyone was okay, but Amanda's husband was still missing, causing them anxiety. Amanda's son admitted, "I don't know what that sound was. I didn't cover my ears properly, and now I feel strange." After sending the children to their rooms, Amanda inquires of Scott, "Tell me what that thing was, the sound we heard. I believe you have some knowledge about it." Scott replies that it wasn't the sound of a plane or a bomb. Amanda speculates, "In my opinion, it sounded like a sound wave weapon." These occurrences make people extremely anxious. Expressing her concern, Amanda adds, "I'm worried about my husband. I don't know where he is." She goes on to share, 2 days ago, I saw a man in the market loading his car with a significant amount of food and water." In her view, that man was aware that all of this was going to happen, which is why he was making preparations for it. Upon hearing this, Scott mentions that he is friends with that individual, and he was already informed about the situation, hence gearing up to confront it. Just then, Amanda's husband arrives, visibly frightened, handing them a red paper and explaining that it was dropped by a plane. Amanda's son recognizes a word on the paper, having seen it in a game. It signifies the demise of America. Unable to comprehend the details, it was clear that someone had attacked to obliterate America. The family, gripped with fear, including Amanda and her husband, chose to flee to the city with their children. However, Scott advised against it, warning them of the dire situation in the city. He urged them to stay, emphasizing that their current location was entirely safe. Despite Scott's advice, they disregarded it and proceeded with their decision to leave. After settling into their cars, they proceeded down the road, only to encounter a cluster of stationary vehicles. Chaos ensued as the cars lost control and collided, obstructing the path forward. The cause of this vehicular mayhem was a system malfunction. Soon, another car approached from behind, prompting Amanda to swiftly enter her car and take a seat. Swiftly parking the car to the side, they narrowly avoided a potential disaster. With no alternative route, they arrived at Scott's house. Amanda's husband and Scott's daughter engaged in a conversation. Scott informed Amanda that one of his wealthy friends, involved in major projects, was aware of the situation. Having foreseen the circumstances, he had prepared extensively, including the construction of a spacious and well-equipped house to weather the situation. Continuing their conversation, they decided to lift their spirits by playing music and dancing. However, Amanda's husband and Scott's daughter were startled by an unfamiliar sound. Investigating, they discovered a gathering of flamingos, an unusual and unexpected sight. The strange occurrences persisted as the unsettling noise returned, prompting them to cover their ears and clutch their heads. The intensity of the sound even caused some items in the house to break. After an extended period, the unsettling noise finally ceased. However, the lingering fear prompted Amanda's family to huddle together on the same bed. Meanwhile, at the break of dawn, an unusual event unfolded for Scott and his daughter. Amanda's son began experiencing the peculiar occurrence of his teeth falling out one by one, leaving Amanda and her husband deeply alarmed. Confused and frightened, they grappled with the inexplicable situation, feeling helpless and unable to seek assistance. Scott informed Amanda that the man she observed purchasing numerous items, his friend, resides nearby and likely possesses a variety of supplies. Proposing to obtain medicine for Amanda's son, they, along with Amanda's son, her father, and Scott, headed to the friend's house. Upon arrival, the friend, armed with a gun, instructed them to park the car at a distance, indicating that they would discuss matters later. Scott found his friend's behavior surprising, considering they used to be friends. However, his friend had undergone a complete transformation, seemingly reflecting the onset of a survival-driven conflict among humans. Scott sought assistance, explaining to his friend that something unusual was happening to Amanda's son, vomiting and the falling of teeth. Amanda's husband pleaded for help. In response, Scott's friend dismissed the concern, stating that the issue of falling teeth wasn't significant and had occurred with many others. The recurring loud noise directly affects the mind, likely causing these issues. I can't assist you in this matter. Leave now. Scott, alarmed, asked why the sudden change. His friend explained that everything had transformed. They were under attack, and a war had erupted. He asserted his determination to protect his family, urging Scott to do the same. Frustrated, Scott and his friend engaged in a heated argument. Tensions escalated as they pointed guns at each other, but Amanda's husband intervened, urging them to reconsider. He pleaded with Scott's friend, stating that in his situation, he would offer help. Willing to provide money, Amanda's husband implored for assistance. Scott's friend, acknowledging the impending breakdown of societal order, questioned the value of money in a world without lasting governments or laws. Despite the initial resistance, he ultimately chose to help them. He provided medicine for Amanda's son, suggesting that the situation might involve Koreans, Chinese, Iranians, or another adversary due to America's history of creating numerous enemies. With no accurate information available, Amanda's husband and Scott, after receiving the medicine, returned to the car. Scott explained that, considering the circumstances, he had already anticipated the impending event. When Amanda's husband inquired about the meaning, Scott clarified that an enemy country aimed to destroy America, leading to the current situation. He added that in such scenarios, a three-move game is typically orchestrated before a country faces destruction. In the initial move, if a government intends to sever ties with its people, it begins by isolating them. This involves shutting down all communication channels, such as the internet, effectively disconnecting the populace from the government. The second move involves clandestine assaults. The distressing and resonant sounds experienced are a form of covert attacks orchestrated by the enemy. Deliberately spreading misinformation induces fear, leading to suspicion and doubt among the population. In this atmosphere of apprehension, people are unable to safeguard themselves, fostering a selfish environment where survival becomes the primary concern, ultimately ending in a war for survival. This scenario has occurred before, with baseless doubts sowing enmity among people. If the first two moves prove successful, the third move unfolds automatically. Amanda's husband inquires about the third move, prompting Scott to reveal that it involves a global conflict. With the government broken and lawlessness prevailing, the world descends into chaos. This situation resonates with past events where Amanda's daughter went missing for an extended period. In response, Amanda and Scott embark on a quest to locate her daughter in a world gripped by disorder. While in the jungle cabin, they began hearing voices from outside. When Scott's daughter ventured out, she discovered a multitude of deer. Amanda, stepping forward, let out a scream, causing the deer to scatter. However, Amanda's focus quickly shifted to the city, where explosions echoed, signaling the onset of a full-fledged war. The distant cries of people implied that their current location was a relatively secure refuge amidst the chaos. With the absence of law in the city, chaos ensued as people resorted to killing, looting, and engaging in unlawful acts. The breakdown of government and order led to this unfortunate state of affairs. The narrative then shifts to Amanda's daughter, who sought refuge in a house mentioned by Scott, belonging to his affluent friend. This secure location functioned as a safety bunker, equipped with everything essential, including abundant food, power, and an operational internet connection. The presence of DVDs and CDs allowed her to indulge in watching her favorite season's last episode. In the concluding scenes, it is revealed that numerous countries had united to launch a massive attack on America, aiming for its complete obliteration. The earlier disturbances, characterized by loud noises and peculiar deer behavior, were a result of secret attacks. Amanda's daughter, however, discovered a haven where the entire family could live in peace. With this movie concludes. I hope you have liked this movie recap. Please like, share and share for more real recaps.